Welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of the Sophomores Podcast, Teacher Talks, where you can get to know more about your teachers. I'm Lily Wu.
And I'm Sarah Sun.
And in this episode, we interviewed Mr. Marr, an English teacher here at Great Neck South High.
So hello, Mr. Marr. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this brief interview for our podcast. So we're really glad to have you here today.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Thank you. And firstly, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tommy Marr, or Thomas Carey Marr Jr. I am originally from Massachusetts. I went to undergrad at both the Boston Conservatory and Emerson College. I went to NYU for my master's, where I got a master's in English and a master's in theater education. And then I worked in nonprofit for a little bit in arts education, and then I became a teacher. And this is my 16th year teaching full-time and my 15th year at South High School. Before this, I taught in the city at a school called the Urban Assembly Academy of Government and Law, where I taught English and then a little bit of theater.
So you were trained to be an actor and singer, so what made you want to go into the performing arts field?
Well, I was a kid in Massachusetts, which is a big sports state, a lot of hockey and a lot of baseball, and this was a kid who just wasn't really interested in any of that. And I also wasn't like the super smart whiz kids in school. I did fine, but I just didn't know what my thing was. I didn't know where my niche was until the 7th grade. We did The Wizard of Oz, and I played the Scarecrow, and I remember vividly, first of all, it was an amazing experience making friends in a way that I hadn't before, so I had a really good time and found something that I loved and other people who loved that same thing. And then the night of the performance, I remember singing the Scarecrow song, If I Only Had a Brain, and then 600 people clapping for me, and that was a feeling I had never experienced before, called confidence. And so from then on, I pursued it. I developed my craft, and I did genuinely want to be an actor as much as people said to me, you should become an actor. And so I did theater throughout high school and then went to college for it. So really it was born out of that confidence building experience, and then it was just something that I was good at, and so I pursued it and worked hard, and then decided I don't want that to be my career. But I had always, by the way, I'd always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was in kindergarten. So even when I wanted to be an actor, like when I was in elementary school, my my godfather was a principal and my godmother was a teacher, so they used to bring me the real school supplies for Christmas. So I got a real teacher desk and the plan book and the grade book and the textbooks and stuff, so I used to play school. So I always wanted to be a teacher. It just so happened that at that point in my life I thought it was going to go in the trajectory of an actor.
That's actually really cool. In the past, I played in the Wizard of Oz. I played the Tin Man before, and it was really amazing. I can really relate to that experience.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when were you the Tin Man?
In middle school, I think, early middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I can really relate to that experience of being on stage and performing. And
was it weird? One of your first times doing that?
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking almost, but then.
Once you get on stage and those lights are on you, you can't really see the audience, and then suddenly you hear them applaud for you. I mean, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
So what makes you to decide that you were going to switch to teaching English instead?
It's a great question, and it was not an easy decision, but it's one I have thought about for a long time because, I came here and I replaced somebody that had left, and it was as if it was meant to be. I was born to be at this school doing this, but at a certain point, my relationship, I think, with theater began to change, and I no longer wanted to be the guy who was responsible for it or the guy who was teaching it. And I also missed the sort of literacy and literature and even grammar game aspect of and language aspect of English teaching that I had in the city when I was doing it. So it just happened that somebody was retiring, And that was it. I said, okay, well, it's sort of now or never. It was at the end of our hybrid year together, and I thought it was the right option at that point, and it turned out to be the best choice. I certainly loved my time as a theater teacher, and I wouldn't have done it any differently. And those 12 years, that's such a substantial amount of time, 12 out of the 16 years doing that. So just because you're good at something, or just because people think that that's what you are, doesn't mean that that's what you have to be or that's what you have to do. Teaching is a unique career for today, where back in the olden days, I guess people would be in one career and then they'd retire and then that's it. They'd work, like my dad, for the gas company for 40 years, or my mom's an ER nurse for 40 years, and they get their pension and then they leave. Nowadays, people move around, they switch careers, or they switch roles within their career. So teaching is unique now because it is one of the few professions where people stay in it for decades and decades until they retire. So for me, I didn't want to leave teaching. I love teaching, and so I just wanted a different perspective on it, and so English was the natural fit.
So what are some of the similarities that you find between the two careers?
I mean, the literature's similar. It's all about understanding at the core why people do what they do, and why people are what they are, and what's the deeper meaning and understanding of the human experience. So, theater and literature, to a degree, shape human relationships. It's an artwork that every artwork shapes something. Sculpture shapes mass, painting shapes canvas, music shapes time, but literature, yes, shapes words, and plays, they shape words, but they shape the human relationship. And so that aspect, of course, is very similar. Practically, I'm up there giving my best, Tony Award winning performance as best as I can, the same. So that really hasn't changed much at all. It's just that I don't have to stay here for the rehearsals until all hours anymore, which is nice. And then I get to be an audience member at the performances, which is such a wonderful change for me, to just sit back and enjoy, and not sit back and be like furiously writing notes like, this is wrong, or going up like, stop. So I just get to sit back and enjoy it, which I like.
That's really great. And I feel like even though you probably like both careers, you enjoy both of them, it's like a nice change to have in the middle of your career.
Yeah, it is definitely the middle. I mean, it is the midpoint. If my career is on average 30 years, which is around the time that a retiring teacher would retire. Not all of them do, of course, people work well beyond that, but it is just about the midpoint, and I just sort of felt like it was time. But again, English was a natural fit because there are so many similarities. And in other districts, by the way, maybe not on Long Island, but in other districts around the country, usually the theater teacher is the English teacher as well.
And so, aside from English and theater, what are some of your hobbies and passions?
Oh, my real life? Okay, well, I live in Brooklyn. I live in Park Slope. So, I mean, Brooklyn itself is a passion of mine. New York City is a passion of mine. I love walking. I do this is the weird English teacher thing, and it's a shock that I'm still alive doing this podcast, is that I read and walk at the same time in the streets of New York. So I mean, I have to be very conscious of cars and bicycles, and mostly in Park Slope, strollers and children on scooters. But I like the idea of moving and reading at the same time. So I was reading Dracula and preparing for class, and I live near this beautiful Gothic cemetery, which is also has a lot of walking paths, and it's an arboretum, so it's beautiful trees. So I was like, it's gonna be like the full experience. So I read Dracula while I was walking on this cloudy day, and it was amazing. I also love to cook. So my partner and I live together, and he cooks as well, and so we sort of trade off cooking duties. So we're always trying to cook. He cooks a lot of new stuff. He's like a Rachel Ray 30-minute meals cook, and I'm like a Sunday long cooking experience kind of cook. And meditation is something also that I do, meditation and mindfulness. So I meditate every day, or at least I try to meditate every single day. And it's been a huge asset to my survival as a teacher, survival as a human being, and my relationship with other people at this job, including the students. It's been really, really great to use to meditate, to have the meditation practice each day, and then try to find ways that the meditation and the mindfulness inform my career.
So what are some of the favorite things that you like to cook?
Ooh, well, the best thing that I cook is probably my meatballs. So I have one Italian grandfather, and I have mostly Irish, and then I have this one who's Danish. He was my mom's dad, and he worked in the firehouse, and he was a firefighter for many years, and so firefighters cook a lot. And so this Danish guy, what did he know about meatballs? Well, the firefighters taught him how to make these meatballs, and so then he passed that recipe down to my mom, and then my mom passed it down to us. And for me, everybody kind of changes it a little bit. So like for me, she took out the onions because I hate onions.
Same.
Okay, thank you. I can't have any raw onion, and nothing in the onion family. So like no chives, no scallions, no shallots. She took the onions out. The meatballs they're really, really good. That's my favorite. I do really well with soups, like comfort meals. I grill because I'm really lucky that I have a garden in my Brooklyn apartment. So I have this amazing two-sided grill. That one is charcoal for like longer grilling, and one is gas for like quick weeknight grilling. So
about this reading and walking thing, so do you ever get like distracted while you're reading, and then like or does it ever distract your reading when you're walking and paying attention to your surroundings?
Well, I have a low attention span to begin with, so like it portions out the reading well. Like so it's a natural thing for me. So like if I go a block and I have to stop and check to make sure I'm not gonna die, then that's just natural for me anyway, whereas maybe I would have been like checking my phone or something else, doing something else as the distraction. In this case, the distraction is trying to stay alive or not be knocked over. So no, it is, and in fact, I can do the largest swath of reading when I'm walking, especially once I get to the park or something, because then it's sort of uninterrupted.
Do people ever like comment when they see you like walking and reading?
Yeah. They're like, oh wow, that's, I never thought of that, or be careful, or
that's some really great multitasking over there.
Yeah, but like we walk with and talk with our phones, so what's the difference? I mean, we're distracted populace anyway. It just so happens that I'm engaging in a different distraction.
I was about to say, like, have you ever tried listening to music while reading? But I realized it's like literally too dangerous because you're already like sort of
while I'm walking and listening to music, and
that's what I'm doing.
I am very bad at that kind of multitasking, and my attention, I just don't. I have to pay very close attention to what I'm reading. I'm not naturally good at comprehension or naturally a close reader. It takes effort for me, which is one of the things that makes me a sort of an empathetic teacher and a good teacher of English, is because I didn't do that stuff naturally well. I had to work hard at it.
That's really great how you like consider how your own experiences can help you translate this experience to the students.
Well, one of the things that I learned early on, especially as a drama teacher, is the worst thing that you can say as a teacher is, well, I wouldn't have done that because of course you wouldn't have done that. Like, it's just, everybody's different, and empathy is important, and that's why reading fiction is so important. Reading about these characters to develop a sense of empathy for people that aren't like you. You don't have to condone what people do. You don't have to be like them, but you have to understand where people are coming from and why they do what they do. So yeah, as a teacher, it's important that you understand that there are many different bodies and personalities and ways of learning in the room.
So speaking of your experience with the students here, what are some of your best memories from South End?
I mean, I always joked with the kids when I was doing theater that I'm somebody who likes to have done things. So like we'd go through the plays and work really, really hard, long hours, be exhausted, and then like waking up on the Sunday morning after the show is done. It's always my favorite part, is looking back on it and feeling so proud of what the kids and I and the adults in the production process we're able to accomplish is great. In the theater realm, certain games in class, certain rehearsal moments. I remember for a period of time I had Heelys, and so I would like wheel around the stage in my Heelys. I loved being here when nobody else was here. So whether it was having a rehearsal on a weekend or whether it was like just coming in to get work done for a show or something and nobody else was here, I like the dark hallways. Like, I love this. I love what happens after school. Now it's like the mornings when I have the screen on and it's just like random kids that are in the class, not only kids that are in my first period, but other people who just like to be in here. I like that. I like the moments with students where you can just talk as people. I also love, like all teachers, the moments where you see kids understand something, or it's the like, like that kind of a thing that happens. So those general moments I really, really love.
We have one final question for you. So what is the best thing about working as a teacher?
The best thing about working as a teacher is that, there are a couple. Number one, I don't think I've ever been bored or ever felt like there was too much time. So at the end of the day, I'm not like, well, that was like, I was waiting for that. I mean, we all wait for the end of the day, but it wasn't like because I had nothing to do. It's like, I wish that I had more time to do what I need to do. And that every day, or just about every day, it's not a clean slate, but it is a fresh start. And that's the beauty of working either in whether it's a school environment or whether it's working with teenagers, is that generally every new day people are open to new experiences and just sort of going with whatever that day brings, because there's just so much to do. And there's, I'm not the only class that you have. So you've got 1,000 other things to think of. So what happened yesterday that maybe bugged you or wasn't so great for you, at least today, sort of like start fresh. There's no grudges. There's no, none, never, but every day is something new, and every day is not exciting, then certainly not boring.
So thank you so much for your time today. That's all for our interview.
Thanks. Sorry I talked so much.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. We loved your answers.
Thanks.
This podcast is brought to you by The Southerner, Great Neck South High's newspaper. It is hosted by Sarah Sun and Lily Wu, directed by Amelia Liao, and edited by Janice Lee.